Hi everyone, I am Pauline Newman, Head Judge for FMG International, and today I am joined by five-time Pro Champion, FMG Pro Hattie Boydle.
Hi everyone, very excited to be here.
Thank you for coming on the show. I mean, Hattie is an all-round legend. Everyone knows who Hattie is. She is a great motivational person, mindset coach, can we say?
Yeah, I like to say I like to work on the mindset.
All around positive human being. So we're really lucky to have her here today on this show. And today we're going to talk about something a little bit different. What people don't often talk about as much is dealing with some things when they don't go right and dealing with placings that you're perhaps not as happy with as you would like, and how to deal with those things. So should we jump straight into it? Okay, so let's start off with show day mentality and nerves. So people are prepping, training for so many years, prepping for so many months. What's your advice to them, and how should they be thinking mentally coming into the show to take into account all the show weekend and show day?
It's crazy how much work we put in the lead up to the show day, and sometimes we forget about the things that call nerves. And something that I always share to people who ever reach out and say they'd like to do FMG is I actually always encourage people to watch the shows, whether it be live in person or online. And these are for two reasons. One, visualization. So visualization is a really great tool that we can all use to essentially take the nerves that we're going to experience and try and shift them into excitement, but also access what they feel like in the body and then be able to control them in a way. So I often think about, the language of the voice of the MC and how it might sound saying my name, so that when I'm practicing, I've got Johnny or I've got Robbie in my ear, and so when that voice gets heard, I'm like, the nerves. And so when I'm practicing, it's not just this new experience when I get to stage, I've kind of embodied that stage experience to a degree before I go out. Focusing on what you can control. So obviously that's in our language that we use to ourselves. Maybe it might be things like journaling. Obviously the system gets very, very nervous or excited, but lots of adrenaline, and we can shake and we can, get really kind of overwhelmed by the experience. Using tools like breath work, talking to your coach, practicing, slowing down, and then maybe even having a mantra or something that you would like to practice, something that you can embody in the lead up to the show to, again, harness all of that incredible energy and try and control it as much as you can. So
when they get backstage on show day, how can they, with still being nervous, enjoy that time backstage and that final thought before you're going on stage? What do you do?
It's funny. I've been competing for 15 years and I still get so nervous. And the thing that I found super helpful was the last show that we did, the Australian show, is in the morning, go out to the stage. If you can get 1 or 2 rounds in and practice your posing, again, you get to be in the auditorium, you get to visualize the stage, you can harness some of those nerves that are showing up. And then when you're backstage and you're waiting for everything, play is really good. Take some photos with people that you've just met or be excited. Or if you need to, put some headphones on, go into your corner, do some breathing, and again, use that visualization of harnessing the nerves, harnessing the excitement, and then going out and visualizing yourself out on stage. Whether you're a professional or whether you're an amateur, nerves are going to be there because it's this really big, grand thing that you've been working so hard for, and it's obviously important to you. I still get nervous. I've tripped on stage. I've wobbled. I've made mistakes. It actually doesn't really matter. Obviously, we have this imagination that we're going to be perfect because we've practiced it perfectly every single time, but we haven't had the mix of nerves. So it's a learning experience. Go into your corner, visualize, or even be a little bit more social where you can kind of move that energy out and around with other people.
And I think that's really good with our shows is we do always have the stage open prior to the show opening, so people can go out and have that feel. Even the feel of the floor under your feet feels different from where you've been practicing at home on the carpet and things like that, and just to look out into what that will look like filled with audience members. I think that's really...
And just on that, like when you're practicing as well, I like to practice what it's going to be like to look to the judges, because I think it's really important to acknowledge you guys when you first walk out, but then that can get quite intense. So look to the crowd or know where your family and your friends are going to sit, so that when you need a true smile, not like a shaky fake one that you're like, look to them and it can just takes some of that pressure away, and you can have a really big, authentic smile that we love to see on stage.
Yeah, and the judges do love to see competitors having a good time. And you
Yes.
know that sitting on the judging panel yourself, Hattie, come out, acknowledge, like, yeah, look across, scan across the judging panel and then project out. It's really good because you're acknowledging both people. But yeah, I think I know myself when I used to compete, look out to that audience where you've got your family or friends cheering you on. It can sort of calm you that little bit as well. So let's talk about when things go wrong. So no matter how much you plan things, and we have it from a promoter's point of view, we can plan everything, but something's always going to go wrong on show day. So what advice do you have for people when things go wrong, such as the show's been delayed or your category's been delayed, you've had a wardrobe malfunction, or you've tripped up on stage? What's your advice for dealing with that?
I think practicing some grace and compassion is probably the only thing that we can do to minimize the internal experience that we have. These things, they happen to the best of us. Wardrobe malfunction on stage, there's always going to be someone at the side to be able to help you as much as possible. You don't get marked down. That's something that you taught me, which was so grateful. Unfortunately, these things happen. I always bring extra sewing kits or materials, or even secondhand bikinis that I can have just in case anything happens like that. When the show runs, look, unfortunately, sometimes some of those stage times, people on stage just take way longer than we think. And it's just practicing that patience, and also having some patience and grace for the rest of the team that are doing their best, I can assure you, to make the show run as smoothly as possible. Staying calm, breathing. All the work is done, control what you can control, and then obviously go out and do the best that you can. If you trip on stage, like I said, you don't be marked down. It's not who can do the perfect pose. It's who looks the best on stage. We can still be drawn to people who have fallen or shake or, all of those things, and be like, well, that person still marks off this, and this, and this, and they end up being the best. So it's not, I tripped over many times the year I won the Australian show, and I was like, oh my God, I can't believe I did that. And I've been doing it 15 years. So I promise you, it doesn't take away everything.
And sometimes the judges don't even notice that as well. And I know I've talked to people, I've seen them backstage in between the morning and night show, and they say, oh, I messed this up so bad at the morning. It's like, oh, did you? I didn't. I wasn't even aware of it. So it's not going to affect your judging, especially if you have a wardrobe malfunction. Just exit the stage. We've got someone at the side of the stage that will get you back on stage. If you trip, if you have to leave the stage, go and compose yourself backstage, and we'll get you back on stage.
Yeah, even with some of the people that feel a little bit lightheaded, you need a bit of water, please listen to your body and go off stage. You will be able to come back on. The judges make sure that they look at every single person. So you will be called out when you come back onto stage, because it is a very fair judging panel. They want to make sure that they're picking the right person to win the category and place everyone in the best way possible. So it just comes back down to composing yourself, give yourself some grace, and come back on stage and keep doing the best that you can.
And so often people will say to me after the morning show, oh, I messed that up, or, I forgot my posing, or I did this wrong, or I went to walk the wrong way. How can they ground themselves and come back fresh and positive for the night show if they think they've mucked up the morning show?
Yeah. The morning show is where you get all your lessons. So trust me, even if you did it perfectly, you're still going to analyze yourself no matter what, because by nature, that's just what we do. In the time between the morning show and night show, if you've got any videos to look at, or if there's anything that you want to memorize, and again, visualization, go back home and practice breathing. Now that you've got the nerves from the morning show done, when you come back at night, there's way less nerves. So you'll notice that you come back at night and you're probably a bit slower, you're a bit more composed. The experience is embedded in the system a little bit better. And that's where you can come back and do your better posing routine. But the thing I want to remind you is the judges don't know what your posing routine is. So even if you stuff up, it actually doesn't matter. If you do a different pose, it doesn't matter, because even when you walk out on stage to do your T-walk, that's where you grab attention, but it's in the lineup when you're doing your comparison rounds that actually counts.
And that's when we're scoring from 1 to 10, when it's the comparisons.
Right. So yes, it's nice to walk out and have your beautiful routine where you feel really empowered, and it's, it's something that you've been working on for a long time. But if you accidentally put your foot there, or you turn to the back too early, or you trip over as you're walking down the back, which happens, it actually doesn't matter. Yeah.
And I think that's the thing too. As a judge, we don't know what the person was going to do on
Yeah.
stage. So you were going to turn this way, turn that way, do a hair flick. We don't know what was planned. So as long as I think you keep smiling and look confident, we're none the wiser.
Yeah, even have a laugh. Like, yeah,
perfect. Okay, so let's go to dealing with disappointment. So if someone doesn't place how they hoped they would place, what's a good way to deal with that, especially when emotions are high, you've just stepped off stage? What's a good way to focus that energy and disappointment?
Yeah. I've been competing for a long time. I've had my fair share of wins and losses. And I think how we lose says more about us than how we win. And so the thing I want to acknowledge is you are allowed to feel disappointed. That's totally okay. Like, everyone's working really hard. Everyone's gunning for first place. The thing I want to remind you of is, even if you don't get what you want, that doesn't dismiss the hard work that you've done up to it. So when people say, I work so hard, it's like, yeah, but so has everyone.
Exactly.
And unlike any other sport that we pretty much go into, bodybuilding is very subjective. And you've got, 6, 7, 8 people putting in their points, and it just so happens that someone else looked a little bit better in more judges' eyes than you. That doesn't dismiss how great you already looked, because you did so much work to get there. What you can do, you can ask for help, ask for feedback, or look at what is it that you feel, if you could remove yourself, that you could do a little bit better. It is a sport that, there's so many incredible bodies on there. The thing that I want to really invite you guys to think about is, if you won, how would you like others to support you? In the same way, like, if I won, I would hope that the people around me said, congratulations, you were the best on the day. And in the same way that when they win, you say, congratulations, you were the best on the day. And I think that's a really important mindset to think about. If I look at, as an example, Stephanie Ayler, who's beaten me, 4 or 5 times, I'm like, go girl, like, you were the best on the day, and I love you for that. And guess what? I'm going to be a champion in the way I show up for myself, in the way that I approach my next prep and my next prep and my next prep, because a champion is a mindset. It's not just who gets to be crowned or awarded that day. And if you want to be really good at bodybuilding, you have to be willing to lose sometimes. And it's not about, okay, well, this show I got second and the next show I'm going to get first. It doesn't work that way, because the next show that you line up against, it's all different bodies, and everyone has worked really hard to get on that stage that day.
And that's such an important thing too, is we get people, they'll do a show, we will give feedback, this is what you need to work on, and they might come back another year and it's a much tougher lineup who they're against. So instead of moving into first place from second, they might drop back to fourth, and then they will say, well, I did everything you asked me to do, how have I placed worse? But it's who you're next to that day.
Yeah, I don't often ask for feedback, because in a way I find it not very useful, because in the same way that I could work on that feedback, because that was my feedback in that lineup, but I could, I've come in smaller and lost the title because I came in too small. So therefore it's like, well, how would I like to look? What's the physique that I would like to live in? And may I hope that that's the best on the day. And if it's not, guess what I get to do? Keep working on my physique. And so bodybuilding is very much a long-term game, because even if you won in your category, you're going to have to keep improving to compete against the pros that have already been pros for a long period of time and be competing for a long period of time. So be excited to raise the standard. That's what I think about. I'm like, what an honor it is to be amongst my other girls that I'm going to be competing with and against, and girls I can call my friends now. And we're all going to work as hard as we can, because we want to be the standard. We want to raise it and raise it and raise it. And whoever wins that day, well, goddamn, I know you worked hard, because I know how hard I'm working. And I think that type of mindset is super empowering, and we can do so much with it, rather than victimize ourselves around why we didn't place the way we should have placed. So that's just my perspective, the things I've learned from the last 15 years of competing and winning and losing at the same time.
You've got plenty of experience in all those areas. So when someone finally wins that prestigious pro status, and I always say, and it's maybe not the right way to explain it, but be careful what you wish for, because everyone wants to do that first show and win that pro status. And you are the standout. If you do win that pro status, you're often the standout in that lineup. But then to jump to the next level on the pro stage with everyone else that were also standouts in their lineup, do you think people feel pressured once they earn that pro status and jumping on the pro stage? How can they deal with that transition from an amateur to now like, hey, I'm stepping it up with the pros?
I think pro is very much a mindset, not just a title. If you think it's a title, then it can detitle you. If you embody what it takes to be a pro athlete, then you can use that to fuel your training performance and the longevity of yourself in the game. We all start somewhere. At some point, we do have to get on that pro stage. We're not winning it just for the pro title, or some people do, but I actually take being a pro athlete quite seriously. And so therefore, I use that to fuel a lot of the work that I do behind the scenes, obviously in the length of time that I take off between shows. So again, look at the time frame that you think is required for you to make the changes that you would like to make to move into the pro status, but don't lose so much self-belief in yourself that you just never make it on there.
Yeah.
Go to the next level. Get on stage. See how you play out with the rest of the girls. You might, or guys, you might surprise yourself. You might do way better than what you think you did, because we don't always see ourselves as we are. We see ourselves as we feel, and if we feel less than, then that's exactly what we're going to see. Or we go in with the intention of, let's go, let's see where I line up, let's receive some feedback, and then we can go from there, because you are going to have to enter into that pro title level and embody, like I said, what it is to be a professional athlete, and use that to fuel yourself to keep building your body.
Yeah. And we've seen it before, and it's not unachievable that you do a show, you win your pro status, you go on to win your first pro show.
Yeah,
the first pro show you do, it's been done before. But then I think don't have the expectation too high, because you are going up against such a high standard of people. So don't put too much pressure on yourself, but you want to go in with that right mindset.
It's that fine line of to go in with the intent to win, but then not, again, like, losing your worth when you don't win. So it's like, this is the nature of the sport, and you are going to get wins and you're going to get losses, and most importantly, you're going to get lessons. And what do we get to do with those lessons? We can make something of it. So that's. Yeah.
So how do you think things change for someone who does turn pro? Obviously, other than stepping on the pro stage, how do you think things change for them being at shows and being role models for amateur athletes? Because obviously amateurs look up to pros, and then once you become pro, what's your advice for people that turn pro as a newly turned pro?
Oh, great question. I would say, I think there's something around self-leadership and a responsibility around how you are and who you are in person with people, and then of course, online. Making time for people who obviously are inspired by you and want to be where you are. I think that's such a privilege, such an honor. And so carrying yourself really well at the shows, being really respectful to everyone, not just the other pros, but also the amateurs, taking time to speak with people and take photos, because we really want to think about this as a community. Bodybuilding, by nature is an isolating sport, but it doesn't have to be. And one of the best things about, as you do step into that pro status, is the leadership that you get to execute with other people and, lead other people to do what you do. So I do think it's such a privilege, and I don't know if many people look at it like that, or more so an honor. And so what we do really counts, publicly and privately.
Yeah, okay. So when someone wins, if they, win by a landslide, they go on and win a pro show, how do they not lose momentum if you go from win to win to win to win? How do you keep progressing and improving? Like, what mindset do they need to keep trying to improve?
Can you answer that question again?
So someone who wins each show that they do, they haven't had a loss. How do you then have the right mindset to keep pushing to improve when you're winning everything you go in?
That's definitely an internal, personal kind of mindset around how would I like to keep showing up, and what changes in my physique would I like to keep improving. I think there's always something to be improved on, whether it be through package or posing. But there's definitely going to be a lot of pressure around being able to maintain that type of win. I always think about Stephanie Ayala and Andre Brazier, who have been 4 or 5 time world champions, and how much pressure that could be to maintain that status. And again, what a privilege that is. Having a really great support network around you, and that's not people that just cheerlead you all the time, but can say, hey, this is what you're doing really well, but this is what I think we could keep working on.
Yep.
And then you go behind the scenes and you keep working on that thing and keep improving the package, because again, you're leading the standard, which I think is such a cool thing.
Yeah.
And so it comes, we can outgrow our categories as well. So
Yes.
especially for something I notice, and I'd love your feedback, Pauline, is, some of the fitness girls are coming in bigger and more conditioned, and it's like, at what point do they cross over to figure?
Yeah.
Or bikini girls that are, starting really full, or coming in, like starting to come in quite lean. Or some of the bikini athletic girls are now looking pretty fitness.
Yeah.
At what point does the improvement now take you out of the category versus at the top of the category?
Yeah. And I think that's the thing too, is what does the athlete want to do? Like, do you want to keep pushing and growing? Or do you think, hey, I don't want to be any bigger than I am, so I want to come back, or I don't want to come in any leaner? Because we've seen it on both sides of things. We've seen athletes that have moved up in categories to bigger categories. We've had a lot of girls go from bikini to bikini athletic.
Yeah.
And some now looking into fitness. And then we've had people doing the opposite. For example, Aftan, who's come from a fitness down to a bikini. So it's I guess it comes down to what you want to do as well.
Yeah, what you want to look like. I think that's really important, because you've got categories and you've got guidelines. But if you don't want to look like that, then maybe it's worth looking at the category that you do want to look at, and then really trying to embody those guidelines and working with your coach to nail that look.
Yeah, definitely. So post-show emotions are high if you didn't place as well as you wanted to, or you're on a high after it. What's a way to deal with things like, you often feel quite empty after a show, like because you've had so much focus, here's my comp, and then everything's gone. You feel a bit lost, don't you, post-show?
Post-competition blues, they're a real thing.
Yeah. What's your advice for people with that?
My advice is actually prepare yourself for the end. So often we think of the goalpost, which is that end show day, but we actually need a plan after. Post-show blues is actually something that happens in our nervous system. So preparation for a show is so much work physically, mentally, but so much work on the nervous system. And the nervous system is incredible at getting things done. We have incredible parts of us that are going to get us up early, do the discipline of the food, even work, be a mother, be a father, get your training done. And so that can do that for so long, but it can't do it forever. And in the same way that we, have things like a reverse diet, which is to obviously diet you out, reverse you out of the diet phase, we want things like that for the nervous system.
Yeah.
One of the best things that we can do is have social engagement. So be around supportive people, people that we love, stay connected to your coach, have a plan in place from your coach and from yourself around how you would like to practice your process as you come out of it, knowing that we do want to relieve some of the intensity of what we do so that the nervous system can actually recover. So we often hear we've got a reverse diet or a recovery diet. That's from a physiological perspective of the body, but we actually want one from a psychological perspective as well. So sleep, like focusing on the same things, our sleep, getting really good hydration. Something I always say to my clients is, don't go and have all of these big celebrations with food, because in that moment, again, with a lot of that big drop, the lostness, lost feeling, we actually turn to food, and that's something that we're trying to still maintain a level of discipline around. But things like keeping on top of your walks, morning suns, like really low and slow things that are really good for, sun on the skin. So even like infrared saunas are really good for the nervous system. Practicing staying on top of this, like essentially the same structure that you entered into your show, but it's just going to be a little bit less and a little bit less and a little bit less, because we shouldn't go straight to nothing.
Exactly.
Even if there's parts of us that don't want to do much.
It's just going to make it so much worse, isn't it? Because you've been so focused for so long, and then it's like nothing. I'm not doing cardio. I'm not training. I'm not eating well.
Well, it's interesting for people to say, I need another goal. And I'm like, the goal is to recover. Once the show is over, the goal is to get you as metabolically healthy and physically healthy as you can, so that you can embark on getting back into your preparation. You're not going to be able to prepare back to back. Some people do a couple of shows, but after that, you do need some downtime. And so the goal should be recovery on all aspects, spiritually, mentally, physically. And we need a level of processes to do that. So your walks, keep that in. Tapering off your cardio, keep that in. Your same level of organization and preparation around your food, keep that in. Be really conscious of how much external things you invite into your life, because when there's, like I said, a little bit of dysregulation after the big drop of the intensity, we're less able to be to have access to our brain, prefrontal cortex, where we can say, yep, that's enough. It just kind of snowballs. So the thing that I want to share to everyone is post-competition blues is something that we all experience. And especially if this is your first show, practice grace.
Mm-hmm.
No one can prepare you for that experience like you can going through it.
Yeah.
But once you go through it once, you have a little bit of better preparation for the next time and the next time and the next time. And so, practicing a little bit of grace in that and taking in all the lessons so that the next time you do another show, which will happen again, you're better prepared and there's things that you want to work on.
Okay, so talking about the post-show blues, what I find, and I did do a thing on my Instagram just recently, an Instagram article, was when your friends are in your ear, and your friends and family, of course, they love you so much, so they're going to be somewhat biased towards you and be saying, you've got this, you've won. It's it's good to be mindful if you've got a friend competing, to maybe praise them for other things, like how far they've come and how hard they've worked, rather than saying you've won this. Because as an athlete, you often feel like you're letting people down when they've all said you've won this, and then you walk off stage and you didn't win. You feel like you've let them down, or like you've disappointed them, and you haven't, and they're just doing it to be encouraging. Any tips for dealing with that? Like, I'm sure you've had people in your corner backing you so much and then you didn't get the win.
One of the best things about this sport is we are all someone's favorite. So it's great that we have people that are really rooting for us. I think that's so important. And that encouragement keeps us going.
Yeah.
But like I said, this is a sport where it's very subjective. And I don't think we should take our placings as a way of devaluing the hard work that we do. And to, rather than use the fact that we have support and people that really want to see us succeed as just something that we're really blessed to have. Again, we're always going to go back to the drawing board. There's always things that we can work on. And some of the things that we can work on is even our mindset around how we compete and better dealing with the lack of, I guess, the win that we were really rooting for.
Yeah. And of course, we do offer feedback to those athletes that do place in that top 5, that they can come and get feedback from the judges. What's a good way with dealing with feedback? Because the point of feedback is to help the athlete improve.
Yep.
Tell them what areas, like, I think when I'm writing feedback for people, why didn't I have you in first place?
Yep.
What stopped me from putting in you first place? So the point of feedback, and I've had people say it before, but you didn't really say anything nice. But if I'm just saying you look so pretty and your bikini was nice, and even though that's a nice compliment, that's not going to help you move forward and improve. So how can they use the constructive criticism in feedback to improve? Like, how can they take that on board without taking offence?
Yeah. I think it's one to take on critique, and it's one to then criticise.
Yeah.
And when you're asking for feedback on what you can do better, they're not going to say you're so beautiful. We know you look beautiful, or we know you looked handsome, but the feedback is, this is what is tangible for you to go and work on, whether it be to come in leaner. You can do that. Grow more muscle. You can do that. Improve your stage presence. You can do that. So if that's the feedback that was given, that's what was noticed on the day. And it's, again, it's not to victimize you or take away your worth. It's for you to go, I now have this information from the judges that they all kind of put together, because I know that you take all the feedback and then you give it to them. That's what that was being said. So let's do something. Let's make this, what might seem negative comment, into positive with the action that you take towards it. And guess what you get to do? Come back and nail that feedback, and they're going to know, oh my God, Sammy came back and she came back leaner and this. And it's like, it's the coolest thing when you see athletes, and this isn't even when I'm judging, this is just when I'm watching the shows, and you remember some of the athletes and they came back, and I, as an athlete, just go up to them and I'm like, I remember you. I remember this, and you look so great. And seeing people return to the stage fierce and with more confidence and in a better physique and total package is so rewarding, even for the people watching. Even if I don't even know who you are and I remember you, I love seeing people come back, because we can take losing and we can victimize ourselves and we can, blame other people for it, or we can do something with it and really empower ourselves with it and come back and just be better and better and better and better. At the end of the day, you get to tell your own story. And I think that's the coolest thing around the sport that we do, is whether we're getting on stage or not, we can build this incredible physique or machine whatever way we want to. And if we want to show it off amazing, it doesn't make us any less of a person or less value as a person by the hard work that we do. And we never know who we're inspiring by the way we're doing it.
Yeah. So obviously most people know Hattie as a competitor, but we have had you on the judging panel. We had you on the judging panel a couple of shows last year. Did you like judging? How did you find it?
I loved judging, and it really allowed me to see how, like, what it actually takes to be a judge and how we judge and how fair it is.
Yes.
I took it really seriously, to be honest, because I really wanted to do a good job for the people in front of me, but also for you guys as a judging panel, to make sure that we were really bringing, the best person forward. It is really hard, guys. Like, putting so much intent and effort into that one person and making sure you're having all the right notes, because in the back of my mind, I'm like, feedback. Yes. It was a real eye-opener, and I really, really enjoyed it.
Yeah, and that's one thing we do like to stress to people is the judging is fair at our shows. There's no ulterior motive. We just want the best person to come forward and place.
Yeah.
There's no other rhyme or reason. It's the best person on the day shall win.
When I hear people say it's because of this coach or because of this, especially after I was like, I can't begin to tell you how false those accusations are, and that just shows how much work needs to be done mentally for that either person or their coach, because it can go both ways. You just weren't the best on the day. That's it. There's no other thing other than that. And again, like I said before, if you won, how would you like your fellow competitors to support you? How would you like them to talk about you publicly and privately? You would want them to say, congratulations, you were the best on the day.
Yeah.
And so we want to give that same respect to everyone on the stage, because it has nothing to do with the competitors.
No.
What happens from the judging table has nothing to do with you, and it has nothing to do with them. So again, like, make friends, be inspired by the women or men that you are competing with and against, because like I said, be excited to raise the standard, your own and your athletes with you, because we want to be the best. We want to be known as the best, and that doesn't come down to being catty. It comes down to, like, let's raise the standard together, because in unity we can be so strong.
Perfect. Yeah. Awesome. We love talking to you, Hattie. I feel all motivated now. I might go do a workout. So, Hattie, for anyone that wants to follow along on your journey, can we ask, are you going to hop on the world stage this year? Are we allowed to ask that?
I am. I have this one's very personal, the world stage. I've got unfinished business. I haven't been the world champion since 2016. And in that time, I robbed myself of that title. So now I think for myself, I've got like a kind of like, it's very, very spiritual, this show, to like close a few circles for myself internally and really let myself, I guess, embody being a world champion, even on the stage. So I will be doing the world titles, and I am so excited because, I said earlier, like, I can't speak for the men because I don't watch the men, but I can speak for the women, and we are just coming in red hot, and that excites me so much because I want to be against the best.
Yeah.
I want to be against the best. And like I said, if someone, wins ahead of me, I'm like, fuck yeah. Like, I know how hard, I know how hard I'm working, and I can only praise you for that hard work. Yeah. So I really enjoy like that kind of mentality and being really excited to compete against maybe some girls that I haven't competed against before, but also girls that I have. And just going to go in, do the best I
reunion
can.
on stage and backstage.
Yeah, it's going to be amazing. I'm so excited.
I think the standard is going to be, from who I've spoken to or people that have said, yeah, I'm coming to do the show, home soil in Australia, which will be great for you, but looking forward to having athletes from around the world coming to Australia and seeing the beautiful Gold Coast and stepping on that stage at the Star. It's a pretty special stage.
It is.
It's going to be pretty spectacular.
I
don't know if you saw, we've announced the prize money for the pros is, we've upped it to 50,000 for the very first Worlds.
Oh, wow.
So that's pretty cool. We've got the gold crowns to go with the black and gold sashes.
Wow.
So we're getting very excited. We've got pro championship rings for the guys.
Oh my God, amazing.
Coming that we'll reveal in the coming weeks
Oh my
once
God,
they
amazing.
arrive. So it's all pretty exciting.
So exciting. You guys are taking it to another level. I love it.
So for anyone that wants to follow your journey or talk to you about coaching with you, or
Yep, just
any
reach out to
questions?
me on Hattie Boydle, my Instagram. That's probably the best place to find me. And yeah, I love talking to people. So if you've been following me for a while and you've never reached out, please do. I really enjoy a good conversation. Or if you just need any help, mindset wise, I do have the Hattie Boydle podcast, and I do have an episode on post competition blues. I often post it on my stories around competition time. I promise you will not regret listening to that particular podcast, but there's so many more around mindset because I'm a massive fan of mind state and mindset work.
And Hattie is so approachable. So if you're ever at a media night or at a show and you see her there, please feel free to go up, get a photo. She'll come and give you a big hug. She's so friendly, so approachable, and you're guaranteed to walk away from that conversation feeling really good. So thank you so much for coming in today. If you found this interesting, please make sure you do subscribe to our YouTube, FMG International, and be sure to be following FMG shows on our Instagram.
Yep. Thanks, guys.
Yay.